Alright, after defeating Kitava, you will meet Commander Kirak in the Karuri Shores and join his militia to safeguard the Atlas of Worlds. The envoy will inform you that two Eldritch Horrors, the Searing Exarch and the Eater of Worlds, are approaching and will consume everything. It's weird because they said 4, but there's 2, but then there's 4. But they're not the horrors, they're like their little boyfriends. And also, why is Envoy with us? Like, why is Envoy? Because he was like standing there next to Kirak discussing the battle plans. Imagine being that guy. Holy fuck. You're like, hey, Envoy, you know a lot about this stuff. Come over, help us out. And he's just like, oh, in the depths of the deepest of buttholes inside of the... And he just never shuts the fuck up. What is this? What the... He's just like talking about some bullshit all day. Listen, I can go through anything. You guys, whenever Envoy shows up, people are telling him to shut the fuck up. When I was a kid, okay, I was at like a sailing camp where we learned to sail. And I was a huge fucking StarCraft lore nerd, all right? And there was a kid who had a massive stutter who was trying to explain the entire lore of StarCraft to me. And I didn't have the courage or the heart to tell him that I know it. And it took him like 45 minutes. And honestly, since then, I'm a different human. By completing maps, maybe they should have, okay, maybe they should have made it so that you can complete like all 3 influences. You can have like all 3 influences ticked. Completing maps affected by their influence, you can hunt down their sub-bosses. The Black Star and the Infinite Hunger. The Infinite Hunger looks the coolest. Before finally facing the Searing Exarch and the Eater of Worlds themselves, defeating these formidable foes yields valuable rewards, including exclusive new unique items. Okay, we know all of this. The Archnemesis Challenge League. We know all of this. I mean, it's better to just watch the video for this stuff, which we will, again. Totem Pole. I don't see anything specific. We will slay. Added 13 new divination cards designed by our supporters. Added 14 new unique items. 14 new unique items. It seemed like there were a lot more. How is it only 14? Or is this separate from the boss drops? Huh. Introduce lesser, greater, grand, and exceptional Eldritch Ichor. Ichor? Currency items that add an Eater of Worlds implicit modifier to a body armor. Yeah, okay, so we know all of this. Christopher explained that. New type of currency scouting reports. We know this. See, this is one of the things that I really don't like. Why don't they just take away master mission tiers? If you only get the maps of the highest tier that you ran for your... or is it only the daily? I guess it would be only the daily. And you're only ever getting red maps. But why not just make it so that all of them fit? I guess the problem would be that people would speedrun white maps to get red map missions. Yeah, I guess that doesn't make sense then. Now that I think about it. And it would be probably only the daily that they're going for. They lied. There's a new support gem. Trigger support skills when you hit a rare or unique enemy with an attack. Support mark curse skills. We already know this. Divine Blessing, we know this as well. Eternal Youth. Yeah, we know all of this. We saw this in the manifesto. It's the March of the Legion Annihilation. Minor new content and features. It is now possible to have multiple blight encounters in a single area. Wow, cool. The duelist has received audio dialogue for part 2, act 6 to 10 of Path of Exile. Wow, 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 wow. First, it was the Templar. Now it's also the duelist, bro. I might just kick things off with a red shirt. That's cool. I like that. I didn't think that's going to happen for many of these classes because, again, voice acting's piecing out. That's kind of what I'm assuming happened with Xana. Because that's such a weird thing. There's not going to be any dialogue. The only like context of her leaving is presumably through the trailer, right? So I'm assuming that the voice actress wasn't available and they were like, well, maybe next league. Kirak might say something. Yeah, he might say something about Xana for sure, but like she's not going to be speaking to us with new voice lines. Fast now refill upon entering or leaving the Azerite mine encampment. Very cool. Raiz Spectre's most recent monster types are now safe to your character and may be desecrated. Oh! The size of the list is capped by your Spectre limit. The size of the list is capped by your Spectre limit. Okay, so you can't run around without a Spectre because you'll surpass the list after a couple maps. But that's still nice if you lose your Spectre and you don't have your hideout. And usually you don't now because they actually reset like constantly. So, yeah, pretty nice. Spectre Bank. I mean, it's like a short Spectre Bank. The monsters that glow now fade their glow on death. Continue to incrementally improve the sound, art, effects, and environment. Atlas and map changes added back to the Atlas. Bazaar, Beach, Belfry, Bramble Valley, Burial Chambers, Cage, Chanel, City, Square, Cold River, Coral Ruins, Coves, Desert Spring, Frozen Cabin, Graveyard, Iceberg. Okay, so they are just rotating these. Huh. The following maps have been removed. Mud Geyser. Oh, interesting. So I wasn't sure if that's what they're going to be doing, like adding and removing. Because they removed a lot of new maps, and that I was like, wait, they made maps just to remove them? But no, they're doing this to rotate them. Vol Temple is no longer on the Atlas and is now obtained from corrupting tier 16 maps. Fuck yeah, no longer on the Atlas. Let's go. Introduce the new synthesized map base type, which all 5 unique synthesis maps now use. This map is not found on the Atlas. Cool. Read it to me, bitch.
Vol Temple is no longer on the Atlas and is now obtained from corrupting tier 16 maps.
Hell yeah.
Introduced a new synthesized map base type, which all 5 unique.
Ah, this is really interesting. Added a new harvest craft that allows you to sacrifice a tier 14 map or higher to create a random conquer or occupied maps. I'm surprised that they haven't talked about how you can horizon stuff around now, like elder maps and conqueror maps. That would be a worthwhile change, grinding your games, because this kind of means that they have the technology. So why would you not utilize it? Rewards from conquerors. More awakened gems to a different drop location. Awakened gems no longer drop from conquerors. Some awakened gems can now drop from the Maven's Crucible, with all awakened gems now being possible to drop from the Maven. Wait, that's not what they said on the Q&A. They said that the most powerful ones drop from the Maven, but they can still drop the shitty ones. I thought that the shitty ones drop from conquerors and the powerful ones drop from Maven. But no. It's everything drops from Maven, but conquerors can't drop the most powerful ones. This is a crazy change. Amulet prefix modifiers that grant +1 level of gems have been added to the core amulet modifier pool and can no longer roll on influenced amulets. That's crazy. Influence shield prefix modifiers that grant increases to maximum resistances have been added to the core shield modifier pool. Wow, you can get fucking +5 shields and shit now. That's crazy. I mean, you could get that before, but it was super hard to get the right item level shield. Influence prefix modifiers that grant increases to maximum resistances on boots, gloves, and helmets are now suffix modifiers. Whoa! Shields that drop from Delph chests can no longer have their own maximum resistances prefix modifiers. Shields that drop from Delph chests no longer have their own maximum resistances prefix modifiers. Shields had that? I don't think I found one. You'll be able to roll the new generic modifier normally. Synthesized shields can no longer roll increases to maximum resistances as an implicit modifier. You know that can be a case too. Oh, they're actually going into details. Guys, now has 30 to 40 less physical and chaos damage taken while sane. Previously 15 to 25. Okay, I mean, that's a change. Arn's Anguish now has +1 to maximum endurance charges. Okay, it's the same thing for these guys. I mean, I don't know if people are actually gonna do this. These drops are still not very good. They did say that the changes to the Maven drop were very last minute, but I don't know. It kind of shows, right? Atlas base types. With the Atlas regions no longer existing in 3.17, there's no longer a location-specific way to obtain Atlas base types. The new Atlas has no clear distinction for how... Oh yeah, I didn't think about this. Different locations could drop specific base types. Make Atlas base types into regular item drops, but have a lower chance to drop. Oh! So I'm never gonna be able to see a Vermilion ring. Poggers. Volt Temple. Corrupting into Volt Temple wasn't a very good outcome, even though it's meant to be rare and special. With removal of regions, it would become more common. In order to have Volt Temple feel more special as an outcome, we added a special implicit modifier to Volt Temple. The area contains 10 additional guarded Vol vessels. Implicit modifiers on Volt Temple force the map to generate with 10 Vol vessels. Each of these acts as a strong box, spawning 3 packs of monsters, as well as a Vol side area boss. Oh! These Vol vessels have additional drops themed around corruption. This change will all be present on Vol Temple maps found after 3.17. Huh, cool. Little things like that, pretty cool. Blight Ravaged maps. I didn't run a single one. Blight Ravaged maps are generally not as rewarding as regular blighted maps given the time investment and difficulty increase. Improve the rewards. I don't know anything about this. Blight Ravaged maps now have maps item quantity modifiers also affect blight chest count at 40% value, previously 20%. Is this good, chat? This doesn't seem impactful enough for me, but again, I'm kind of no idea. Divination cards in the Atlas rotation. With maps now constantly rotating in and out of the Atlas, some Divination cards may no longer have a location or a boss they can be naturally obtained from. In 3.16, this was handled by manually ensuring that every Divination card still had a map to drop in, but this is not feasible to do for every release. True! And I do appreciate the Atlas rotations, let's be honest. That's a pretty freaking nice amount of effort that they put in. Solution: change drop locations of many Divination cards to drop in a specific thematically linked list of areas. A few will drop in slightly fewer locations because of this change. Make sure every Divination card that drops in maps will always have a map on the Atlas that drops it. Okay. Divination cards control the universe. Alright, I'm not reading any of this. Is there any meaningful Divination card? Hit me. TTS Queen.
Many divination cards that drop in maps now drop in additional map areas.
Very cool.
In most cases, their existing drop locations have not changed, and those cases have not been patch noted individually. Drop weightings and minimum area levels for the vast majority of cards have not been changed, but drop weightings for a very small number of cards have been reduced in cases where the number of maps they're available from has greatly increased.
They're stealth nerfing again.
A long-standing bug in the code determining area level restrictions for some divination card drops has been fixed. This means that cards intended to have a high area level requirement, mostly ones that grant item level 100 items, will no longer fluctuate wildly in availability from league to league.
What the fuck?
A small number of cards no longer drop in areas where they used to drop, and these changes are detailed below. Most of these cards also now have new locations they can drop.
Don't care. Is there anything good? Enlightened no longer drops in Ashenwood map. Where does it drop now, though? It just doesn't drop? But you guys are saying that it does drop. Alright, I mean, interesting, but I don't understand why they say it doesn't drop, but then it does. Oh, I see. But I also don't care. Prophecy. You guys want to go over this? Alright, I'm not reading this shit, I'll be honest. Remove the prophecy mechanic from the game, many of its rewards from other content. Nah, don't care. They're all shit anyway. The divination cards, grant prophecy related stuff, don't care. Betrayal problem. Oh, Betrayal.
Betrayal. Problem. Leaders are only able to reinforce a job in specific situations where another job member is a higher or lower rank.
Okay.
This can result in a player unknowingly preventing a leader from joining, and locking out any reinforcements from joining an encounter.
True.
Solution. Betrayal job leaders can now assist as reinforcements on a job if there are a total of 3 ranks worth of syndicate members in that job.
I don't understand.
This allows you to draw a leader out more easily by having multiple equally ranked members on a job or a single rank 3 member on a job.
Okay.
Return to top.
Cool.
Delve biome modifiers. Problem. Newly introduced delve biome modifiers that forced all side passage chests to be a specific chest type, such as fossils or azurite, could be used to repeatedly farm the same section of passage to produce huge amounts of resonators and fossils.
Wait a minute.
Solution. Change delve biome modifiers that forced chests inside passages to be a particular chest to instead only affect chests behind fractured walls. Modifiers that made side passage chests of a particular type remain unchanged.
Wait, was this really the case? That seems insane. How did they think that this was a good idea? Were people just darkness farming? I didn't even know about this.
Problem.
Okay.
Newly introduced delve biome modifiers that cause the crawler to consume less sulfite could be used to farm experience very efficiently by finding a biome with a high value of this mod, repeatedly running the same path and logging out before completing the encounter. Solution. Reduce the values of
How could they make the
sulfite
same
used
mistake
biome
like this?
modifiers. Specifics. Spoiler. They now range from 20 to 50% reduced sulfite used down from 25 to 100% reduced. Higher values of this mod can now also only appear deeper in the mines, with the highest tier becoming available at depth 500 plus.
Ah, I see. Very cool. Very boggers.
Monster balance.
What is it? Tell
Act
me.
2 improvements. Problem. Many monsters in Act 2 are not up to the standard of challenge and polish of other content. Solution. Improve the behavior of most Act 2 monsters, raise the life of some weaker Act 2 monsters, and add new monster varieties to some Act 2 areas.
Wait, but they said that they're not doing this, right? They said that they're gonna do it, but then during the Q&A, wasn't there a question about it? Chris said it, but yeah. Oh, they did. I thought they said that they're not gonna have the time to do it this time. Misunderstood. Okay, cool. I mean, I really enjoyed the Act 1 changes. I know a lot of people hate them. There's a lot of pushback, and I know that I thought they're gonna hold back on this fully. But I personally look forward to them doing it. I think it's probably not the best use of their resources, to say the least. It's still kind of better for the game. Oh, they did small changes, but not a complete overhaul. Ah, okay, I see.
Specifics. Spoiler. We have adjusted the life and damage of various monsters found throughout Act 2. New monster types have been added throughout Act 2. Spriggans, wasps, undead Val, scuttlers, and salvagers. Return to top.
Okay, hold on. I've had enough of wasps in Act 2 in my life. Monka Giga. That's why we were getting those Diablo 3 videos earlier.
Tormented martyrs. Problem.
Oh.
Monsters touched by tormented martyrs explode on death. The danger posed by this explosion is hard to predict due to being dependent on the monster's main hand attack damage, which varies widely between monster types.
Yes!
Solution.
Remove it.
Change the damage dealt when tormented martyr-touched monsters explode to be based only on the monster's level, meaning that every monster in a given area will deal a similar amount of damage when it explodes.
No.
Return to top. Existing monster modifiers. Problem.
Wait, that was it? It's still instantaneous? But like, why? I mean, maybe it just doesn't do any fucking damage anymore? But why? It's like the only old school mechanic. They've changed all the other like detonation mechanics and instant damage, freaking volatiles and all this stuff. Why keep this in? It's so random and deadly in the most annoying of ways. Yeah, now it just one-shots every time. I don't know, bizarre.
The allies deal substantial extra physical damage modifier no longer has the word substantial in it, though the values of the modifier have not changed.
Okay.
The evasion rating modifier for monsters is now a prefix modifier instead of a suffix to match the armor and energy shield modifiers.
Okay, so caster rare mobs are like way deadlier. There's also chaos resistance for like any rare mob, and there's also physical damage reduction instead of armor. Because before you could completely bypass the armor because the values were totally tiny. But now it's just damage reduction. Dude. I don't know. This is scary. Cast speed, spell damage, extra lightning damage for attack monsters. Lightning specifically is spooky as heck. And it's magic and rare monster, actually. It's not just chaos resistance for rare monsters, it's magic and rare. Mamma mia, imagine spawning into like a Spirit Walker Sparker pack with cast speed and spell damage. We're going to standard. Oh, Mausoleum boss. Wait a minute. Hold.
Mausoleum map boss. Problem. The Mausoleum map boss detonate dead is not very well telegraphed, making an avoidable source of damage hard to identify. Solution. Reduce the number of corpses. Tolman, the exhumer, is able to explode at once and add a visual effect wind up to the skill.
Why? Just fucking get rid of detonate dead, dude. I mean, it's good that it's not instant anymore. That was another example of like, for whatever reason, this one thing is instant. But then they keep the instant explosion. I'm big confused. But I mean, it's improvement, but small. Small improvement. Not big. Alright, we know all about these changes, you know? Big self-casting memes. It's really not. It's really not big self-casting memes at all. Unfortunately, we've read all of this with the manifesto, and it's hell. Wait, what is this? They've changed this. You guys aren't kidding. Orb of Storms no longer requires splitting from the target. Orb of Storms no longer has a duration. Instead, it now remains for a number of hits before it disappears. Wait, so it's even worse? Wait, what is this? Base duration is 7 seconds? Orb of Storms no longer has a duration? Number of hits? Base duration. No duration. Number of hits? Base duration. But how many hits is it? Essence Drain. Now deals 9 to 13 damage, previously 9 to 14. Oh shit. Big nerfs. Up to 644 to 966 at gem level 20, previously 433. 649. And now deals 1500 base chaos damage per second. Previously, oh fuck, now it's 1509.4, previously 1503.2. Now has a 90% damage effectiveness of added damage at all gym levels, previously 60. Holy shit. That's giant buff. You can hit stuff with Essence Drain now. Super hard. Crap bomb. And then they gave it 6 base damage too. Crit ED. Crit cock ED. Lady Vortex. 128 to 191. Previously 86 to 129. Now it's 30% damage effectiveness, previously 20. Yeah, I mean, all the self-casting stuff basically got buffed from like 45 to 60%, guys. Flames of Judgment. Triggered by the... Now deals 3,870 to 5,805. Previously, now has 850% effectiveness. Wow, they buffed it up a lot. Wasn't this already a really nice skill? Immolate OP, dude. Immolate is like the entirety of the rest of the damage. Meme Staff? It's not a Meme Staff, it's pretty good. X Blast, Hydrosphere, Ice Nova. This is what I wanted to see. 118 to 172 at gym level 20, previously 79 to 116. Now has a damage effectiveness of 190 from 120. And it's 769 to 1,130. Previously 518, 762. Fuck me, Ice Nova got juiced. Wow. Crossbolt Ice Nova seems crazy. Volatile Dead. Wow. 753 to 1,129. Previously 507 to 760. 170% effectiveness from 120. Wow. Maybe it's time to self-cast Volatile Dead. Fuck yeah. I love Volatile Dead. Okay. I mean, that could be enough for it to actually work. Honestly. Winter Orb. Pause champ. How sick is this? 270 to 337. From 232 to 291. Now has 150% more projectile frequency while channeling, previously 100%. Now has 60% effectiveness of added damage at all gym levels, previously 50. That's pretty good. It's pretty good, honestly. This is also like easily a 60% damage buff. And keep in mind also the cast speed is getting buffed, right? So that pretty heavily affects stuff like Winter Orb. Anything that's got like multiplicative cast speed scaling. Still not good while not channeling. Yeah, but you can put it on a totem. Reduced resistances. It's possible to obtain high amounts of reduced resistances with uniques introduced in 317. Resistances can no longer be reduced by more than 100%. Huh. Why is that a problem? It's because you can increase the amount of damage output that you have by reducing the amount of resistances you got with certain items. Reread DD? What, did they do something else? Problem. Certain corpses have far higher life total than others, giving extreme survivability when used as a specter. And very high damage of skills based on their corpse life. Okay, hold up. Lowered the life of specter versions of monsters that have very high life totals. Their life is being brought down to match Kitava Heralds. Kitava Herald monsters? Aren't those like 550s? This will affect their corpse when created with Desecrate. How much is Kitava Herald? Isn't it like 360? Okay, DD is dead. They actually killed it. Yes! Problem. Items that summon Spectral Wolf on critical strike or kill will rapidly replace wolves when reach the minimum limit, which can replace an actively attacking wolf with one that is yet to play its emerge animation. What? Okay, cool. Item balance. March of the Legion. We know all of this. We know all of this. Dancing Dervish would be pretty cool. Void Fletcher is very... I don't know if I agree with this change. Lower the damage multiplier of Void Fletcher arrows. Oh, they've specified what they've done. Void Shot, triggered by a Void Fletcher unique arrow, now deals 25% more area damage, previously 100%. Now has 65 effectiveness of added damage, previously 120. What the fuck? You animals. Dude, what the fuck? Void Fletcher was so cool. It was like the only functional quiver. Why would you change all these quiver things to make quivers cool and then fucking nerf the one cool quiver? Come on, bro. Void Fletcher's such a fucking cool item. It's one of the coolest items in the game, in my opinion. Oh, what's this? Recouping life from damage taken has 2 fuel locations to invest in the mechanic, with items only giving the mechanic on unique items. Introduce ring modifiers that cause a percentage of damage you take from hits to be recouped as life over 4 seconds following that. Added 4 tiers of new Modifiers to the core pool for rings that causes a percentage of the damage you take to be recouped as life. The highest tier version of this modifier can be obtained as ring. 15%? And it's only 2 rings? Motherfucker, what? That's not even good. That's so little. I was pretty excited about that, but I don't know. There's so many sources of regeneration. This recoup meme. They need to sit down. Veiled belt modifier that provides flask effect and reduced charges is a suffix, while the belt modifiers in core modifier pools that provide flask effects are prefixes. True. The veiled belt modifier that provides increased flask effect and reduced flask charges gained has been changed to a prefix modifier. That's kind of nice. Crafting recipes. With crafting recipes being removed from optional content in 3.16, the ability to unlock socket crafting options was moved to far later in the game when it's intended to be an early solution for guaranteed socket manipulations. Thank you! I fucking could not get these things for like the longest time because they were pretty deep and it was just like one thing. I don't know. Keeping them on the elf was... I thought it worked pretty well, honestly. These crafting recipes have been moved out of maps. They can now be found in the mines, the Grand Arena, and the Combe Stronghold in Act 4. Perfect. So nice. What a great change. Very good. It was very weird. I had my 6-socket, 5-socket, and 4-socket recipes, and I could not get the fucking 3-socket recipe for the life of me. So then I couldn't color stuff. It was the worst. Add a section to the map stash tab for storing Conqueror's, Elder, and Shaper Guardian maps. Add an option to visually hide your life and mana reservations so your actually usable life and mana are scaled to fill your entire orbs. Oh, that's interesting. That makes it even more difficult because now whenever you hide your auras in the UI, people are like, what auras is he using? But now you can also hide your mana reserve, so now it's gonna be like extra fucky. But that's nice. I mean, that's a good change. You know, some visual clarity for your mana, for sweet mana. Showing advanced mod description is not in any option anymore. It's always on. Perfect. Okay, that's it. I mean, that's all the patch notes. I'm not reading the bugs. Fuck the bugs. They can't get me anymore. The bugs are gone. Honestly, tiny patch notes. Very tiny. The vast majority of the stuff was in the manifesto. And as far as the content goes, overall, if we include the manifesto into this, I'm glad they're doing stuff to Act 2. I'm glad they're adding all of these currencies. I'm glad that obviously they're changing all of the endgame systems. I think moving away from influenced items is a definitely very, very, very good choice. I personally didn't mind influence items that much, but through Tarki and Noogie talking about it on Bayclast, I've grown to appreciate their perspective of influence items being pretty hurtful. So I went from like initially not liking influence items to then being mostly okay with them to now not liking them again. But to see them move away and introduce systems that sure still have a lot of RNG in them with the implicit changes. It's a much better form of RNG, and honestly, I can appreciate that. And like, you're not locking yourself into options with these new currencies. You can continuously reroll between the 2 different modifiers that you've got, and then you can like elevate them. It's pretty cool. Although it's probably not going to be that meaningful anyway, so not a big deal. They did say that they're going to be improving the Maven drops last minute, and it goddamn shows that it's last minute because the Maven drop improvements are not good. I mean, Arn's Anguish is a noticeable improvement because it was already like an okay item. This might have some potential for some people in very niche circumstances, but it's never going to be an item that's worth them more than 1 chaos. I like the fact that they're changing up the Atlas again. I thought that they're moving away from the system where they're just like moving maps away and they're not switching up the Atlas, but they're actually bringing a lot of the maps back that they removed last league, which was curious because they've removed a lot of the new maps, but now they're adding them back in, and it seems like they're not too picky. They're just mostly rotating through them, which is kind of cool. Yeah, the quality of life and the sexton stuff is pretty cool. How we can trade the modifiers and whatnot, and overall I like the removal of watchstones in some capacity. Obviously we're gonna have to wait to see how the skill tree is gonna turn out, the Atlas skill tree or whatever, because that might be a nightmare of its own. Divination cards, I personally could not care less. Much of this we've seen as well when it comes to prophecies. I personally could not care less, with a couple exceptions of stuff like Joffrey's hat, for Summon Holy Relic. Yeah, I guess it's pretty much that. Act 2 improvements I welcome with open arms, as I've probably mentioned before. Mausoleum boss improvements is great. Martyr improvements is great, but both still have an issue that I thought they could have gotten rid of. The hit-based spellcasting, honestly, I'd love to tell you, and then maybe with high investment, skills like Arc can work, and maybe if they really do a good job, the Orb of Storms could potentially work. There's a couple other skills like Explosive Arrow, that's technically like self-casting or whatever, that could work. Maybe Frost Bomb, Hex Blast, maybe. Ice Nova's definitely looking pretty good. I guess Ice Storm is kind of flying under the radar right now. And I'm sure there's a couple others that I'm missing. Oh yeah, the Edziri staff is looking pretty good, especially the fire variant of it. Self-cast or some forms of volatile dead are looking pretty good despite the corpse life nerfs. But just about, oh, and Wave of Conviction and maybe Winter Orb for some like totem stationary setups might be looking pretty okay. But just about anything else in this looks really bad. I'll be honest, like, yes, these are still improvements, but there's no core improvements to self-casting as a playstyle. And there are even nerfs to Unleash, which Unleash is kind of a stepping stone in my eyes to Spell Echo anyway. Especially considering that there's improvements to cast speed, which should make it feel a lot better due to the cast speed multipliers. But without some sort of like inherent change to the way that these abilities are used, or at least to the way that you're able to defend yourself against damage while self-casting abilities. With these few exceptions previously mentioned, I really can't see a world where we're going to be seeing a whole lot of spellcasting going on in this patch in particular. I'm sure that it's going to improve things, but overall, it's not going to be the sort of anticipated meta shift that I think many people were looking for. Yeah, cast speed improvements, flat damage improvements on weapons, especially for spell damage and then bows and stuff like that is really cool. I think addressing threshold jewels finally, and finally accepting that they're just not a good addition to the game and they never had the potential to really make a dent, is very healthy. At the very least from GGG, I think that's a good choice to finally give it up instead of constantly promising about how they're gonna do this and that with it, and then only ever introducing systems that basically did what Threshold Jewels did, but just in a better way, you know, just in a much better way. These skills we've looked through, and then there's also bows. Honestly, the bow changes are extensive. I was expecting this to be a big bow changes again that aren't meaningful. These ones are, you know, and they're really focusing on physical and chaos attacks, so I can most definitely see a lot of bow skills that were already pretty functional before, because there's a lot of pretty good mechanical bow skills to be pretty good. I can already see a lot of people playing some more, you know, old school, well, I guess it's not that old school, but some bleed bow memes, but actual bleed bow, not like corrupting fever or something. Some champion memes, I can see that for sure. I can potentially see some Pathfinder stuff again, some Raider stuff again, maybe. There's obviously going to be the new Keystone that I'm kind of hoping is going to be somewhere in this region. That's going to, hopefully through the increase of accuracy, if your accuracy is higher than your HP, you gain 40% attack damage, but you cannot crit, which is pretty freaking powerful for some parts of these builds. That could be a pretty big improvement for bows if it's located properly. There's some changes to marks as well, so maybe something that I related could be pretty cool. I wouldn't necessarily get my hopes up if you're an average player when it comes to bows, because bows generally are still incredibly high investment, even with these changes. But I most definitely think that it's going to be a lot more playable, and if you're willing to invest a little bit more, you should be having a fun time. So we're gonna have to wait and see what people are gonna be doing about that sort of stuff, because again, even these unique items, I haven't even looked at the unique item numbers. I've only looked at the rare modifiers and the new mods and the quivers and all that stuff. It's good. These are freaking big numbers, you know? And they even changed the masteries, which they removed a lot of the good ones, but they've added actually even better ones, which is pretty cool. And yeah, the implicits on the quivers, not just the modifiers, are pretty alright. And I guess that kind of summarizes it. Oh yeah, I guess one of the things that I didn't see a whole lot of people talk about is the changes to Fortify. I can definitely see how Fortify could be this like really overpowering mechanic yet again, because to get Fortify is very, very, very simple. And they've shown us the math for it, and it looked like everybody should have 1,000,000 stacks of Fortify 1,000,000 times. But then fortification generation now ignores the target's damage reduction is super big, because before this was the reason why Fortify wasn't quite working the way that everybody expected it to, where yeah, you need a lot of attack speed or you need to hit really hard, but you're actually going to be getting those stacks. But through this, that prevented much of the mechanic or much of the content. But now you can still pretty heavily invest into Fortify, and that's gonna, I think, have a pretty big result. I was one of the people that was really, really skeptical when they said, oh, we're nerfing Fortify, only to see how much stuff they've reintroduced to it. And as much as it didn't come to fruition last league, I think this league we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more people use Fortify related stuff, which is scary because I don't think Fortify is good for the game. So yeah, I don't see how melee exists in a game like PoE where melee is like full screen explosions, but that's like an entirely separate subject. And yeah, a lot of quality of life improvements, a lot of speeding up that they've taken away with much of the cast speed and attack speed nerfs in recent times. Seeing that come back, especially through itemization, is just a large improvement to the game overall. And they've also addressed the biggest issues, I think, overall when it comes to PoE's metas, which is, yeah, they've nerfed Detonate Dead to the point where it's still a good skill, I think, but it's not super overpowered with ignites. I think they've probably over-nerfed ignites for a lot of setups, but maybe it's gonna be fine. I think Detonate Dead was the biggest problem. Everything else was just fine and decent with good enough investment. Oddly enough, they're addressing Seismic Trap. Well, I guess that's not that odd, but they're addressing it, although we don't know to what degree just yet. From the sounds of it, it's going to work when it comes to AoE the same way that Toxic Rain does, which also is getting nerfed by a couple gem levels, I guess, comparably to before. Which, I don't know, to me, Toxic Rain should kind of be like the gold standard of balance in Path of Exile, where if you can face tank something, it's pretty high damage with pretty high investment. But prior to that, it's not particularly good. I wouldn't recommend it as a league starter. I played it in the recent Gauntlet, and yeah, I mean, everybody knew, but I had to try it out on myself. It's just kind of slow and wonky and not really particularly safe, and it doesn't enable a lot of the mechanics that really make for a good character in PoE nowadays. But it is a champion, and champions are pretty fucking good, so there's that to not worry about. And yeah, incremental improvements, unique item improvements, all this sort of good stuff paired up with all of the new league content. I think it's looking pretty spicy.